From the Primal in the Woods studios in sunny Central Florida, it's the Primal in the Woods podcast with your host, Michael Toombs. This episode is brought to you by NFLCarports.com and Primal Screen Fitness. This podcast is produced for entertainment purposes only. Nothing said herein is intended to diagnose, treat, or cure anything. If you're sick, go see a doctor, because God forbid you do anything for your own health without the expressed written consent of a licensed medical professional. Now here's Mike with the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of the Primal in the Woods podcast. This is Mike, your host. I was thinking about what I should talk about on the next podcast for next week, and it came to my realization that perhaps I should spend some time sharing my own story. I mean, sooner or later, somebody's going to say, why the hell am I listening to this guy? Well, let me go ahead and use episode 4 here to nip that in the bud and explain to you why you should listen to me. So let's start right at the beginning. It was a beautiful spring day in central Michigan, April the 5th, 1973. The birds were chirping, the bees were buzzing. It was one of those mornings you just knew was going to be special. Nah, just kidding. But my birthday is kind of important because being born in 73, basically my brain formed my idea of what, healthy eating developed during these late 70s and 80s at a time when the low-fat craze, the aerobics craze, the move more, eat less, calories in, calories out bullshit was at its height. So that was my upbringing, Cheerios is good for you. If you want to lose weight, eat rice cakes, avoid meat, avoid eggs. You don't want cholesterol, can't have real butter. You got to use margarine, all that shit. That was the worldview. And so that was my understanding. And now I'm from a big family, and by big, I mean large. I'm the youngest of 11 kids, and by big, I mean fat. Most of us, my parents, and almost all my brothers and sisters at some point in their life were pretty fat, and that includes me too. So I'm not throwing any rocks here. Why'd we get fat? Well, we ate crap food because we were poor. No big deal, right? And we were lazy, right? We watched too much TV. We didn't go outside enough. We were slothful. That's what we thought. That's what we taught ourselves. And being the youngest, I had the benefit of watching my older siblings deal with this and diet. Okay, so while I'm a youngster and a teenager, rice cake diets, cabbage soup diets, I saw jaws wired shut. I saw weight loss surgery. I saw some pretty punishing behavior, all done in the goal of losing weight and doing it in a way that we thought was right. So this was my thing. So growing up, I was fairly athletic as a kid. Did most of the sports. Kind of got into high school and got away from that. Got a little more into drinking and smoking cigarettes and girls and all that kind of thing. And I got away from athletics. I still remained pretty thin through the college years. And it wasn't until I got to be about mid-20s when I started putting some weight on. And it sort of just crept on. From about age 23 to age 33, I added roughly 10, 11 pounds a year pretty consistently over that time. Now that's 10 years, so 11 times 10 is about 110, and I did that. I went from probably the 190s when I got married at 23 up to 300 pounds by the time I was 33. So 1996 to 2006, I call my decade of expansion because I didn't really concern myself with eating healthy, beyond the usual husband-wife conversations about how we should eat healthier and feed the kids healthier and all that kind of thing. I was moving up the career ladders. We were moving around some. I was not paying attention at all to this expanding waistline and just general malaise. Because it wasn't just the weight that was growing during this decade. There was also back pain issues, heartburn, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and all that stuff was following me along too. See, but since I was the youngest of 11 and I had all these brothers and sisters ahead of me and they were expanding too, I never felt like I was way out of control because just in comparing the other people with my genes, I'm looking at them and I'm going, I'm not there yet, so I guess I'm okay. Interestingly, I had no idea I was anywhere near 300 pounds. I'll never forget the moment I realized I was 300 pounds. I was always figuring I was like 270, something like that. Hadn't been on a scale in forever. Christmas Day, 2006 was the day I stepped on the scale and saw 299.6. And that freaked me out. It's the highest number I've ever seen on the scale. But, the reason I know I've hit 300 pounds, even though I've never physically seen it on the scale because it said 299.6, is because that was in the morning of Christmas Day, and I ate like shit that next week. So like a lot of people do, I'm sitting here at the end of the year, New Year's coming on, 2007, January 1, 2007, I'm going to change the way I eat. And to be honest, I did. I joined a gym, and that was the only time in my life that I actually used my gym membership. And I used it for about 2 months. Pretty regularly, probably 3-4 times a week. Early mornings, I'd go hit the gym and I'd work out. And then I was also trying to eat better at home. Of course, my definition of eating better then was less meat, use margarine, more fruits and vegetables, whole grains and all that kind of crap. So still a very high glycemic load, but I was eating better, right? And I was working out. And I actually had a little bit of success. I started weighing myself in 2007. And by May, I believe, I was down to 270. In July of that year, I had a 2-year contract with a newspaper, and that was up, and so I moved across the country. And when I made that move, I sort of slipped back. I kind of got out of the healthy eating, working out mode, and kind of got back into just trudging through life. I had to move there, but without my family. So I was living in a hotel for a month. And just sort of fell back into those normal eating habits. Interestingly, though, I didn't gain the 30 pounds back. I stayed right around 270 for the entire year, from that summer of 06 to the summer of 08. And in the summer of 08, I discovered Tim Ferriss's slow carb diet. Okay. Now, Tim Ferriss's slow carb diet is kind of like whatever that stupid keto diet is that has the cheat day every week. That's pretty much the slow carb diet. Tim Ferriss's diet allows for beans and some other stuff like that. Anyway, you can read about that in his book, The 4-Hour Body. So I took this slow carb approach for a while and dropped about another 20 pounds, got down to about 250. And man, I just thought I was the shit. I was feeling better than I had felt in a long time. I felt like I had a way of eating here that was fairly sustainable. And so that was kind of my introduction to a lower carb approach. And along the way, I picked up a couple other habits that were going to help me later. I figured out the value of getting sunshine, getting sunlight. I realized that just doing a few moderate exercises regularly is better than trying to commit to something that you can't do and killing yourself in a gym for a couple of weeks and then dropping out. But a lot of these seeds were planted, right? A lot of the seeds that I would use later were planted. Now, in that summer of 08, my life went through some pretty major upheaval. I got divorced. I moved. I changed jobs. Basically went through every stressful situation you could imagine all at once. I met someone new pretty quickly, and we combined our households, so now in the mix of a still pissed off ex-wife, new job, dealing with stepkids, had all this stuff going on in my life, and health once again kind of fell into the background. I didn't think about it for a long time. I got remarried to my amazing wife, Rachel, and luckily for me, anyway, Rachel is fairly health conscious. She always has been. She's never been big on having a lot of sweets in the house and that sort of thing. She enjoys vegetables, and she's always tried to feed her kids somewhat healthy. And so for the next couple of years, I maintained that 250 range, almost entirely just because of Rachel's influence. I did nothing to try to maintain my weight or lose weight or anything like that from like 09 to 2011. In 2011, we made another major change. We were kind of influenced by that Joe Cross dude that drank all the kale smoothies and shit, and then we watched Forks Over Knives and kind of got into a vegetarian mode. And a lot of that stuff made perfect sense to us, and so we adopted a vegetarian lifestyle. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I was all in on that. Any chance I got to at lunch for work or whatever to run out and get a burger or something, I did. So I'm not going to say I was married to that vegetarian idea. But at home, we ate vegetarian, and I did make some serious effort to be vegetarian and even vegan for a little while. And in 2012, Rachel and I together sort of got on this exercise kick, partially because we went to visit my brother Tom in California, and he runs a super slow type gym, and he took us through a workout, and we really got into this idea of super slow, exhaust your muscles, nice and easy, once or twice a week workout routine. So the 2013 starts with us basically trying to incorporate these slow-mo type body weight resistance workouts into our lives while being vegetarian and staying committed to that. Early in September of 2013, my father passed away, and this was the first time in a long time that our entire family had gathered together, unfortunately for terrible reasons. But at the funeral, something that weighed very heavily on me, especially after looking at like the photos from the funeral, is, man, I am nowhere near healthy. I don't feel good. I look like crap. I'm still fat. I'm not doing this right, you know? But here we are 2 years into vegetarian, and we really feel like that's a good, clean way to eat. And so in our minds, being from this mindset of eat less, move more, it's like, okay, well, we got the eating dialed in this vegetarian way, so I need to move more, okay? And actually, Rachel's kind of out of the picture on this. We're not really doing this together because Rachel had already kind of embraced a workout strategy and workout routine, whereas I was a little more lazy on it. And so I'm sitting there, man, I need to get this working out thing going. And so I pull up a YouTube video by Doug McGuff about strength training, and I'm watching this video, and he keeps saying, you know, if you do this exercise and then eat like Mark tells you to eat like Mark tells you to eat. And I'm like, who the fuck's Mark? So with a little more research, I figured out he's talking about Mark Sisson. And so I watched a Mark Sisson video, and Mark Sisson made a ton of sense in his video. And so that is what led me down this rabbit hole of looking into grain-free, sugar-free, low-carb eating. And for like 2 days, that's all I could do is watch freaking YouTube videos about low-carb. And so I'm on this binge watching Mark Sisson, Rob Wolf, Peter Attia, Bob Lustig, the Wheat Belly Dude. And Rachel and I just kind of look at each other, and it's like, man, we've been lied to. This has all been bullshit. And I want to say it was about 9:30 at night when we looked at when this happened, when we had our little aha moment. And we got dressed and went to the store that night. So we're in the grocery store at 11 o'clock at night buying a bunch of bacon and eggs and chicken breast and basically just meats and, you know, broccoli and asparagus and vegetables and stuff like that. Cheese. We were like, hell yeah, we're doing this in the morning. And so the next day, September 29th, 2013 to be exact, I got up and I made us a big old bacon and egg breakfast. And man, that was awesome. There hadn't been the smell of bacon in our house for over 2 years. It was fantastic. So we eat like that. We go to work. We do our thing. And then dinner that night, our first night, was chicken breast, overcooked, dry as shit. And honestly, we were both sitting there just kind of choking it down. We hadn't had chicken breast in a long time either. We did kind of overcook it, and it was dry. And I thought Rachel was going to cry. She couldn't finish it. And there for a moment, we kind of questioned what we were doing. But that's okay. We made a plan. We got through it. Next day, bacon and egg breakfast again. Had a nice steak dinner the second night, and I think that sort of cured any questions we were having as far as, you know, satiability and whether or not we could choke down meat all the time. And very quickly, we went from vegetarian gnocchi and potato roast making fools into basically carnivores. We ate a lot of meat. You know, bacon and eggs was like breakfast every day. Maybe some sausage instead of the bacon. And then for lunch, I would always just take a meat. Rachel would come home and usually have some sort of salad. And then dinner was always a meat and a vegetable. So she was getting a little more vegetables than I was. Interestingly, I dropped water weight super fast. I mean, I don't know, it's some crazy amount, like 10 pounds in 4 days or something like that. Whereas Rachel didn't really do that, but she hit the high energy level a lot faster than I did. So she's bouncing off the walls on day 4. I'm just pigging out on all this meat and not really feeling that effect of it, but I'm sitting here, the scale's amazing me. she's not losing any weight, but she feels great. And so anyway, as this goes along for a few more weeks, our appetites shrink a little bit. We're still eating quite a bit, trying to incorporate some more vegetables. We start exploring some of the different low carb and keto recipes and stuff that's available out there on the internet. And that was just kind of the story about how we started. The results don't lie. I dropped 35 pounds in that first 60 days. Rachel dropped about 20. Over the next year, I got all the way down to just under 200 pounds. So my loss was over 50. Rachel went from 181. She weighed 181 on day one when we started. And here now, 4.5 years later, she's about 125. And so she's lost over 50 and kept it off for years. I've added a few pounds back on over the years, but not many. I'm still sitting at about a 50-pound loss. She's sitting at a little over 50-pound loss. And we've been maintaining this lifestyle for over 4 years now. Now, during this time of 2014, when we were all excited about it, it's like no one wanted to be around us, right? Because we're already a sickeningly happy couple anyway. So anyone who's a little lonely or having a bad relationship didn't want to be around us because we're so sickeningly sweet and loving and awesome as a couple. And now on top of that, we're going to be food missionaries. We're going to tell everybody about low carb and keto and Primal. And we both become, Mark Sisson introduced the Primal Blueprint Certified Expert Program in 2014. We immediately bought into that and jumped into that. Both became Primal Blueprint Certified Experts. Rachel was managing a curves for women, which is, if you've ever been a part of that, it's just kind of a really, really poorly conceived and constructed way for women to work out. Rachel actually started incorporating some primal concepts into what she was doing with the curves. Probably would have got fired if any corporate people would have come around, but the women that were listening to her and working with her loved it. I kind of went a little different direction in how I expressed myself. I kind of joined a bunch of Facebook groups and just tried to help people out through Facebook groups. I learned pretty quickly that real life people get really annoyed when you try to tell them how to eat, how to take care of themselves. So I kind of set that coaching trainer idea on the back burner and kind of focused on doing some writing and some things like that. And we've kind of just been going along, living our life, living a primal lifestyle, and not thinking so much about teaching others. I've always had this little pull to do something, like write a book or put together some sort of plan that people can follow. There's so much bad information on the internet, so much confusing information. You can ask 3 people the same question and you'll get 3 different answers, supposedly all from experts with scientifically peer-reviewed, double-blind controlled trials, with different studies saying different things. Really hard to separate the good stuff from the bullshit, especially on Facebook groups, man. That's crazy. But anyway, so I kind of get this idea that I want to create something again. And I ran across some numbers of sales figures for paleo, primal, keto books. And I decided, I'm not going to write a book. Not only would it bore the shit out of me on the editing side and putting everything together, there's no real financial benefit to writing a book only. And all these guys that do the books are there basically just to support some other enterprise. Okay. Nobody makes money writing diet books anymore. So then I'm like, hey, I'll just do a podcast. Never done it before. Have no idea what I'm doing. It'll be fun. It'll be exciting. It'll be new. And so here I am. That's my story. That's how I got here. I did update my credentials a little bit when the Primal Blueprint unveiled their Primal Health Coach program, which kind of replaced the old Certified Expert program. I went ahead and got certified as the health coach. I've done hours and hours and hours of study on metabolism just on my own. I'm still involved in some of these Facebook groups and try to offer counsel where I can. Basically, I'm just a dude that figured it out, I figured it out in a world where I probably could have easily never figured it out. With my genetic wiring, I'm wired to be 350, 400 pounds by now. I'm wired to be diabetic. I'm wired to constantly suffer from colds and flus and strep throat and everything. My genes are coded for heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and after 25 years of smoking cigarettes and drinking a lot, my lungs and liver are probably screwed too. So I can just imagine, had I not found the Primal Blueprint, and even beyond that, had I not made that decision when that 299.6 freaked me out on the scale that day, I could be in a big, bad bind today. But instead, I figured out a way to express different genes, express a healthy, skinny me. It hasn't been easy. It hasn't been magic. It hasn't been without discomfort or without struggle, without some sense of feeling deprived here and there, without feeling like, oh, if only I'd been born with better genes, this would be a lot easier. Yeah, I guess I've had those feelings, but they're just stupid voices. They're stupid inner dialogues that are easy enough to quiet when you do it right and kind of have the right mindset. So there you go. That's my story. I used to be a fat guy. Now I'm not a fat guy. I'm a certified Primal health coach, which doesn't mean a whole lot. It just means I read some material and passed a couple easy tests. To be honest with you, what I think makes me worth listening to, if you don't mind me saying so myself, is the fact that I've lost my weight once. You know, one of my brothers said to me one time, dude, losing weight's easy. I've lost 500 pounds in my life. And he's absolutely right. He has lost 500 pounds, but he's gained 6. And now he's on meds and has high blood pressure and diabetes and everything else. I lost my weight once, man, and I've never gained it back, and that's what makes me an expert in losing weight and keeping it off. So that's my story. All right, so what do I eat? The foods I eat are pretty simple, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you're about to see what I eat. So eating low-carb keto, whatever you're doing, Primal, all starts at the grocery store. Starts with what you bring home, okay? Here's a typical grocery haul for us. This is kind of an older one. I'm not quite into the bacon like we used to be, but we used to wrap everything in bacon, I think. But lots of red meat, some different steak, different beef cuts. We've got some chicken legs. We got some chicken thighs, chicken breasts. We've got some sausage. We got ground beef. We got several types of vegetables, little avocados, some cream cheese, coconut oil, pork rinds, the little the fruit that you see there is actually for my son who doesn't really eat keto. And we have some 86% dark chocolate. This would last us quite a while. We'd have to go back for some more eggs and probably some more vegetables before we get through all that meat. But that's a pretty typical grocery haul for us. And at first we ate a lot of protein. I mean, a lot of protein. Pretty big portions. Way too much, to be honest with you. But it's just what we felt were the right portion sizes at the time as we were adjusting and getting all that carby stuff out of our lives. As time went on, the protein sizes got a little smaller, the veg portions got a little bigger, and now we probably eat fairly equal amounts of meats and vegetables for most meals. The 12-ounce steaks are now 6 or 8 ounce steaks. The small little servings of broccoli are now half a plate of broccoli. And we keep things pretty simple, a meat and a vegetable. Rachel does look up some different types of sauce and keto breading type recipes, and from time to time she'll try to cook something new and different. And they're usually awesome, but it's just not something we go to all the time. It's more of I'm feeling a little creative, want to try something different, and it's more of a activity than it really is, ooh, I'm craving this food. One thing that I've noticed, it actually started while we were vegetarian, and then it really, really kicked in as we were doing keto, is being creative in the kitchen. Cooking becomes fun when you're really into your lifestyle. When how you're eating is kind of an obsessive religious type thing in your life, then getting into that kitchen and doing something cool and healthy is fun. It's a bonding opportunity, especially if you're doing this with your spouse. It's a chance to keep infusing a little bit of excitement and newness into a process that sometimes feels kind of humdrum and boring and repetitive. So let's just look at some of this food we eat. Stuffed burger bowls with jalapeno poppers on the grill, pork and veggie kebabs, grilled chicken quarters, the most beautiful bacon cheeseburger I've ever seen or tasted, a beautiful medium sirloin all by itself, keto chili, poached eggs with bacon drizzled in hot sauce, more bacon cheeseburgers, not quite as pretty, but just as tasty. This is sausage stuffed chicken breast wrapped in bacon. That's a big no now. We would never put that much protein in our faces now, but it was awesome back then. How about some mashed cauliflower and keto style breaded steak fingers with gravy? Awesome. Bacon and cheese smothered chicken breast with a little salad. Salmon and Caesar. This is a pork chop covered in sauteed scallops and mushrooms served with some jalapeno poppers. Boy, we did go kind of crazy on the meat in the early days, that's for sure. And we did the fathead pizza thing. We're not opposed to doing some of the keto favorites, even though I'm not gonna advocate any kind of fat bombs or crazy 800 calorie cups of coffee or anything like that. But we do go for some of the keto treats here and there. How about an egg white breakfast burrito? Real simple sausage and a salad. Broiling those steaks, beautiful buttery steaks. Taco salad. Here's an egg wrap chili relleno smothered with sauce and served here with sour cream. That must be Rachel's plate because I don't eat sour cream. Bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. No sandwich, just bacon. But here's a meal. Here's a little piece of steak with some sauteed mushrooms and some broccoli. This is more realistic of what we eat day to day. Some of these other pictures are just kind of some different stuff we've tried here and there, but this is a very typical meal for us. We do sometimes throw in some turnips and carrots and some of those root vegetables that you're told not to eat if you're keto, served here with some salmon. The bacon taco shell was an awesome experiment. That was so good, and one taco filled you up. It's way too much bacon for one meal, but it's pretty cool to experiment like this from time to time. Everything's better wrapped in bacon. This was from Super Bowl 2014, our first Super Bowl. Made up some cheese crisps with a little salsa and jalapenos. Made an excellent snack for watching the game. Again, here's something we would eat more now. Just a small portion of salmon with some squash. Here's some chicken with some mashed cauliflower. Tacos served on a romaine shell. Just some chicken and squash. Some nice fried eggs on a big chunk of ham. I don't know what else to say. It's fairly easy. We don't cook anything crazy, fancy. We don't do a lot of the keto baking. That's just not who we are. We eat bacon and eggs for breakfast, or the ham and eggs or whatever, sausage and eggs, and then for our lunches and dinners, it's usually a salad or a vegetable and a piece of meat. We try to use spices and seasonings to get the variety. You can pick up 5 or 6 spices and take a chicken thigh and have it taste like 5 or 6 different things if you mix those spices right. And I'm not just talking about salt and pepper either. Play with flavors, play with spices, and don't be afraid to cover that shit in spices. That, to me, is what makes this a diet of variety. I just did some chicken thighs, I think the night before last, and I used a spice combination with some Cajun stuff and some garlic and some jalapeno, and man, that chicken skin was amazing, and I never quite made it like that before, and it was a little spicier. But I'd rubbed the chicken thighs in olive oil, spiced both sides, just baked them in the oven like anyone would do, and I'll tell you what, that skin crisped up nicely, and I'll put it up against KFC original recipe any day. Anyway, I can show you how to do this. It's not that hard. It really isn't. Not the food part of it anyway. Shopping for meats and vegetables and cooking them is not that hard. Getting your head on straight and recognizing what your real goals are and what you're trying to accomplish, that's a whole different story. That's where people struggle. That's kind of what I hate about internet groups on dieting. They seem to make it all about dissecting and arguing over stupid little points about the food and macros and all this stuff that really don't even matter, because if you don't get the basics of just this is what I'm going to eat and this is how I'm going to live, all that microscopic dissection and shit really doesn't matter. Not at all. Who cares how much protein and fat you eat if you can't keep your hands out of your kids' freaking cookies? Who cares if Swerve or Stevia or xylitol or whatever other bullshit sweetener is better for you? Who cares if you walk 10,000 steps or 12,000 steps? None of that matters if you don't have a blueprint for health that you believe in. And there's more to it than food too, but I'll save that for another edition. But if anyone tells you that the food part of eating low carb is hard, as far as like having enough variety and taste in order to like tickle your taste buds and make you happy with what you're eating, I'm just going to have a hard time believing that it's that hard, because I've been doing this for 4 years and honestly, it just keeps getting better for me. As I become a better cook, as I become more willing to taste new things and try new things, this just gets better and better all the time. And the best thing is I always have a reset point, right? I can always just go back to, okay, what are the basics? Bacon and eggs for breakfast, meat and a vegetable for dinner. Keep it simple. You know, coming back to keeping it simple is sort of how I reset. And I do that all the time. It's like, okay, we're spending too much money on groceries. We're getting a little too cuckoo with these different types of breadings and all that kind of stuff. Let's just reset. Let's go back to basics. You know, a little cream in my coffee, bacon and eggs for breakfast, salad for lunch, meat and a vegetable for dinner. Just reset. Because when the kitchen in your house, when that part is easy, eating out is a little easier. Going to someone else's house where they're serving crap is a little easier. Dealing with your kids' cookies and cupcakes and shit that are on the counter, it gets a little easier. It all gets easier because you know that you're the one in control. You know that you can cook a great tasting meal, and you know that the meals you're going to cook are probably going to taste better than what anyone else is cooking. You know what I mean? Definitely going to taste better than McDonald's or Burger King or whatever. The food I showed you, that food was freaking delicious. So that's pretty much my food story. I do supplement with some omega-3s. I do either take some vitamin D or go outside and get some sunshine. I do take a multivitamin here and there. I drink water, coffee, unsweet tea, and those, once in a while I'll have one of those crappy LaCroix like flavor infused carbonated water things that Rachel gets at Walmart. Quit drinking a while back, quit drinking alcohol, and those kind of remind me of a drink for some reason. I guess just the fizzy and the kind of flavor without being sweet kind of reminds me of a glass of wine or something. So I have one of those once in a while, but mostly it's just coffee, water, and unsweet tea. I'm not opposed to people having some dry red wine. I drank Merlot through most of my keto experience without any major problems. I gave it up for a while. Just I'm kind of doing a test to see how I do with no alcohol in my diet. It's the right thing for me for now, so we'll see how that goes. I don't necessarily think you need to lay off booze in order to be successful. I just think you need to be real about, you know, the effect of alcohol and the calories that you're consuming when you're drinking, and the food you're not eating when you're drinking, or the foods that you mindlessly snack on while drinking. I think all those things need to be dealt with honestly in your life. Alcohol is either a problem or it's not. If it's not a problem for you, great. It does seem to cause me some issues, so I'm on a little bit of a break. Okay, folks, that's about all I have to say. I do want to leave you with a little bit of a clip from Joe Rogan talking with Dr. Rhonda Patrick. This is from the Joe Rogan Experience podcast number 901. I do not own any of this material. If you're worried about me infringing copyrights, don't. You could have Googled that shit yourself and found this pretty easily on YouTube. Here's Joe and Rhonda inspiring us a little bit.
No one's under the illusion that you're going to live forever, but you are enhancing the experience that you're currently involved in right now. And you are alive. Right. You are alive. You do experience this life. But do you experience this life optimally? Is it as enjoyable as it can be? And we all know that there's a spectrum for that enjoyability. Like, we've all had times in our life where it's not been so great. And then times in our life where everything came together. Like, what a fucking great day. Woo! Like, make more of those. Like, you can make more of those. And then the whole thing's better. And I think when that whole thing is better, it affects everybody you touch, everybody that's around you, everybody you come in contact with. And that in turn, I mean, it sounds so grandiose, but in turn can affect the entire race of human beings.
I agree. Totally agree. And I love the way you put it about, like, the feeling good. It's not just about, staving off cancer. It's not just about what's going to happen 20, 30 years from now. It's about now. It's about not being depressed. We know that. It's about feeling better. It's about being smarter. It's about having more executive function, having more long-term planning, less emotional amygdala, anxiety. That is like right here, right now. That is happening. That is so, it's not just long-term effects, which you also are, also affecting, which is very good. So it's like a win-win. You're not just affecting the future. You're affecting right now, how you feel, how you perform. It's an important concept that I continue to try to get across to people.
And it also will optimize everything else you do, whether it's creative pursuits, whether it's relationships that you get into. A lot of those things are predicated on how you feel as you enter them, how you feel when you participate in them. And you can enhance that. And I mean, there's a weird thing that people do where they want to pretend they're not trying to do better. I'm fine. Everything's great. Like that's not true. You're putting out effort. It's a matter of you have a mindset or you have a connection in your brain with putting out more effort and connecting that to discomfort. And that connecting things to discomfort. Have you ever, Stephen Pressfield has a book called The War of Art. I've brought it up in this podcast a million times. I actually have a copy of it. I'll give it to you afterwards because I bought like 50 copies of it. And I hand it out to people. It's great. And he's been on this podcast before. And his book is essentially mostly about the creative pursuit. And it's about resistance that people feel when you should write or you should paint or whatever you should sculpt, whatever these things are that you pursue. And that there's this thing that comes up that tries to keep you from doing that, this resistance. And he's like, this is a battle that you will fight for the rest of your life. But the key is to fight it, not to give in. Don't give in to that resistance. To fight that resistance. And in doing so, every day you do so, you have won the battle for that day. And you will continue to fight that battle. And if you continue to fight that battle with that same mindset, you will win. And this is a guy that, like, up until the time he was 40 years old, he was basically a loser. He wasn't doing well. He was like a failed writer. And then he kind of just figured it out and got his shit together and then wrote books about it. And now he's like a really accomplished author. And it's an amazing story. And he's a really cool guy, too. I had him on for a podcast. And, in his enthusiasm and the way he approaches it in this book is like, it's very pragmatic. Like, you can see the steps and he lays it all out in a way that's very easy to digest.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to read it. I mean, I think that's something that's a very important part of the human experience is pushing past that resistance to whatever. So. And you're right. Once you do it, you get better at it next time too.
There you have it, folks. Just get started. Just get it done. You'll get better as you go. You'll eat better as you go. You'll feel better as you go. You'll get smart. You'll get happy. You'll get fed. You'll get energized. So get off your ass. Go to the store. Go get some bacon and eggs. Start now. That's it for this edition of the Primal in the Woods podcast, brought to you this day, December the 22nd, 2017. Merry Christmas, folks. Make good choices. We'll see you next time. Peace.